Previous video not yet uploaded. My parents' first, most obvious attempt on my life was in 1964, as outlined. In 1965, Karen had her inexplicable accident, whereby she was riding pillion on a motorbike, which crashed into a van parked at the curb, and the bike had part of its brake cable missing. As I've said tediously, my father never disputed paternity of Karen, or at least he didn't do it formally. No blood tests or anything like that. Perhaps because she was his. Anyway, in 64 and 66, my father had 2 more daughters. So I'm speculating at the moment that Karen and I were not only firstborn daughters each in our individual unit, to be sacrificed, but also purely and simply inconvenient. He needed to concentrate on his family at 43 Selsdon Road. Jacqueline, his wife there, his daughter Susan Deborah, and his daughter Carol Angela. Sounds a lot like Karen Ann, doesn't it, to me? Carol Angela was, as I say, born in 66, and was on the way at the time of Karen's death. Fiona was also born in 1966. And of all of that family, the one I'm having the most trouble tracing is Carol Angela. Of course, she was second born, which, no matter how weird it sounds, does not make her a prime candidate for sacrifice. But the firstborn girl of that family is alive and well and in Singleton, where my parents and brother lived. Well, unless her FB timeline is completely made up, of course. Carol Angela and Fiona, born in the same year, 2 months apart, in 66. The devil's year. Well, not quite. Actually, the devil's year was more like 1961, the invertible year. But if you take June 66, you have it, 666. Fiona's supposed date of birth, however, given that her place of birth was a lie, who knows what her actual date of birth was? Perhaps somebody just decided it was going to be the 26th of June 1966. Just as somebody, i.e. my father, decided that my birthday was the 12th of August, and it wasn't. Fiona, I have said over and over, was slated for sacrifice from her date of birth, or by her date of birth. '64 would have been my death. 65 was Karen's death. Leaves him with the other 2 daughters, by the same mother, in the same place. I'm struck over and over and over again when I look at photographs of the area, the whole area that my father covered: Carshalton, Wallington, Mitcham, New Addington. He had a friend come relative there. I recognise all the photographs, and that is very strange to me, because I never accompanied my father to work. that I recall. But every single photograph that I see looks familiar to me, really familiar to me. And I can remember a very strange occasion when I was only about 6. In Southampton, there's a place called Bitton Park Triangle. And there was one day that I went there with my parents, and I said, it looks different. By that I didn't mean that there had been a building knocked down or one put up or something had changed its shop sign, or I meant that I was seeing it through different eyes, which I was. Makes you wonder, actually. Do different people look at the same thing and see something completely different? But I did that day. It was the same place, but it wasn't the same place. I tried to explain that to my parents, and of course without success. It was the same, but it was not the same. I was seeing it through different eyes. And as I say, I now find that every single photograph of my father's stamping ground in South London is familiar to me. And yet the only time I know I've been there was in 2009. Searching for the electoral rolls, which, by the way, are terribly organised in Croydon. It was the most difficult to access. I had to have a lot of help from other library patrons. Don't think the staff were all that helpful. Anyway, 7-minute ramble. That does lead me to wonder, though, why it became necessary for my father to make another attempt on my life in 1969, by which time his other daughters were 5 and 3. And my brother was permanently out of the way in the RAF. Did he want to get rid of our little Southampton family completely? If his attempt on me had been successful, would my mother have been next? I am put in mind of an entire family, female line, wiped out in a handful of years. I don't want to upset an FB friend. Let's just say Lynn Middleton was one of them. Get rid of me, get rid of my mother, sell the house in Southampton. He is then free to pursue his life at 43 Abbey Road, Selsdon, with that wife and those 2 daughters. It makes sense to me.